Okay, Seth, here's your video from last week. Sorry I didn't get it up to you sooner. It's been a crazy week, but usually I get these up the day of the lesson or the day after, but hopefully I'll see you in a few hours. But here we go. I want to start at the top, give you some a little advice here as we go through here. Some things are going to be long-term, some things are going to be short-term, but we'll go through this together in the next 5 weeks or so. So here's what we do at the first part of the delivery. We come out of leg lift here, and we basically want to see how far you've come off the mound as a pitching instructor here. My job is to see if there's any kind of early momentum. And as you start to come up here with your leg, coming out of leg lift, which would be about right here as the leg starts to descend, you'll notice how squared up you are and how much of your body is in line with your leg. What we want to see here is at this point, and studies say that all high velocity pitchers are going to move out. So if you really want to start increasing velocity, a lot of times it's within the first movement. It's not the be all that ends all, but it's just something that's correlated to high velocity with all the data and studies that have been performed on hundreds of pitchers of video analysis and such. So we don't see any hip movement going out. So that's something that we could work on as your leg is coming up to its highest point right about here. So you post up real nice, but that's a controlled move. It doesn't really help you to be athletic and explosive. So what we want to do is develop some momentum, then build on that momentum into leg drive through your load. And I'll explain what that is in a few minutes. But so your body is definitely not on the inside of this line. Your body is posted up, and you've got a lot of body out here behind this line because you haven't really pushed out. So all this body back here should be out here more, okay? And that's more of a long-term goal. We have tons of stuff that we can work on too. So I'm going to take you out to about handbrake, and you'll see even at the point where you break your hands, so you're a drop and drive kind of a guy. So see how far your head is off the rubber. It's still kind of stayed back there. Just lack of momentum and early movement. So let's take you out here to your load. This is called your load. And what we look for here in your load is how much flex do you get in your knee. And we look to see also how explosive that knee is when it's time to turn over and then thrust forward. So when we look at your load, we're looking at knee flex, which will lower your center of gravity, okay? But we need to see that the center of gravity is being lowered correctly. So in your case, even after looking at your video from behind, I noticed that your knee would come way out over your toe. And that's an indication of early rotation. It's basically an indication of not lowering your center of gravity correctly. So we want to get the feel of squatting, like sitting back. You want to lower your butt down so that your knee doesn't travel over your foot. And when you do, you lose velocity because you're not able to incorporate all the larger muscles and then explode out of that with enough efficiency to drive forces up your body into front foot plants. So this is what I mean. So watch how your knee will, instead of extending and turning, it just kind of turns over. So you see how bent you are here? This is really where your leg drive begins. As your heel starts to come up and push your body forward, previous to that is all your load. So in your load, we want to see a good flex, but we also want to see that your hips have pushed you out and lowered your center of gravity as well. But we don't really see that. We kind of see a guy who's just kind of drifting off the mound, flexing, but flexing forward and then causing the knee just to really rotate. And right here is where we would measure how much leg drive you actually have. And I'll put a line here. That's where your heel starts at your leg drive. And watch how your back foot and your knee will kick. Boom, and you'll get some drive there. It's not too bad. You do get a little bit of leg drive, which is halfway decent. And the point is that from this leg drive, we want to see that there's a conversion of power from the lower body to the upper body that will now thrust this upper body over your leg. Okay, so you do get a little bit of some kick from your ankle there. You get some ankle extension, which is good. And that's definitely something we can improve upon. And your leg does extend, but just not with enough power that's really going to increase your velocity and convert to your upper body. Okay, so let's get you down to foot plant. Let's take a look at your position. You have a good position here with your body. I mean, I can see that your arm is in a great position, so we're not going to touch that. You almost get what's called some triple extension here. When the ankle extends, the knee extends, and the hip extends and kind of pushes forward. So this is where your hips are opened and your shoulder is still relatively back, so you do get some good hip and shoulder separation there. And throughout the weeks when we work, we'll work on even improving that better. I just want to back you up a little bit here. I also want to show you something that we can do with this arm here. This arm is low and this arm is up, and typically we want to see both arms in the same position. We want to see the elbows lined up, and your elbows are not lined up. This one's way down here and this one's way up here. And when you see that kind of movement, the front shoulder will pull off and will open you up a little too soon. And that's what we get right there. Just a little bit of some opening up too soon. Keep this arm up here more so that your elbows are level, so that your upper body is kind of working, the front part and the back part are working together and not spinning you off, causing you to open up a little too early. And then, of course, casting your arm. See, let's just get you out here to full external rotation. You get good arm layback, which is really impressive. But if you take a look at your chest position, look at how tall you are. You are at, mid-80s maybe, 81, 82. Okay, and we want to see you down in the 50s there. But that's going to come from more back leg power. And so instead of just gliding down the mountain, we want to see an acceleration of force from your back leg. This is more just like falling down the mountain and turning over and kicking a little bit and almost getting triple extension. But your chest kind of doesn't really receive those. It doesn't convert very nicely up into your chest, so it just rotates it through and kind of casts your elbow out in front of your face. So once we get more dynamic through the lower body, that will convert better to the upper body, and that will, your arm is up in a good position, but it'll throw it back more. Like there'll be more forces kicking this arm back a little bit more behind the trunk so that the trunk has time to get out and then deliver the arm in this position here rather than out here in this position. Okay, so if you take a look at your ball release, you see how low your hand is there? It internally rotates right there. That's called pronation. That pronation is pretty low. So your hand is pronating down here when it should be pronating up here. And again, that's just the lack of power conversion to the upper body. So all in all here, Seth, we just need to work on your lower body, and we just need to work on getting this arm here to be a little bit more in sync with this arm as far as the height is concerned. I think it's just more natural to throw with your arms up in the same position and then coming down at the same time. Okay, but overall you look pretty good. Let me just take a look at you at ball release. Okay, you see how tall you are? Now at ball release, if you want to throw the ball hard, what we see is guys at about a 45-degree angle, you're at 66. So you're pretty, almost a 20-degree angle difference, which is pretty significant when it comes to ball velocity. And let's just check out your front leg. Your front leg is excellent. You have a great angle about 146, which is good, and then it pushes back a little bit as you throw, so you're getting some extra velocity there. So your front leg actually extends to probably about a 159, which is not bad. So those are all pretty good things. Just work on, just to recap quickly, we just want to work on some early momentum, getting some more load in that back leg, loading that back hip, and then being able to explode out of that and accelerating here into front foot plant while bringing that glove arm up and then turning it over to allow time for that energy transfer to get there before this rotation starts here. Boom, that's where you brace up, but look at how far you've rotated. All right, so I think that's going to change a lot for you when you're able to do that, and I think these type of mechanics are really going to do well for you. So, all right, I'll see you tonight.